Yeah, I actually second the problem with English being the most dominant language, and well, we need some language to communicate, but there are heaps of people that do not speak at all English or very bad English. So, and I think my proposal is on the new learning approaches, or I believe in games being ideal learning environments, because there are so many points to say about that. I won't go into details, but the first thing we want to focus is to implement a standard set of levels and games and quizzes and quests for that matter, and connect with different language communities. And I think we picked 11 right from the start. And yeah, if we get funded, we will connect with them and make a standard set of entry levels that teach you the basics of communicating in that language and not only English. Yeah.
That sounds really, really interesting. I suggest you also put in a link in the chat room of your proposal.
All right.
I'm also with the ambassadors in 4 categories this time. So not only Grow Cardano, Grow Africa. That was the first that I did in Fund 5, and we got funded. And so now I ask for continuation and others too. So, but it seems like it could be very interesting that we would have a discussion or a meeting somewhere outside here then to see what our projects could contribute perhaps with each other, because I see a lot of similarities of what we try to achieve.
I wanted to thank you also, Rick. You commented on, we have a proposal also with Johnny that we would like to create a translator collaboration platform. And Johnny and myself are already translating live the project Catalyst, and you pointed out that indeed there are several parallel projects already running, and that's where everybody needs to find itself in order not to develop everything from new and to duplicate and so on. But it's true that what you said, I think from the beginning, is the only concept of blockchain is already something that is not accessible for 90% of the person worldwide, even though that speak English. So I think that we really have so much road to make that really we can shoot everywhere. It can only improve the situation, because the situation is very well, we are on a very early stage, and only defining what is Cardano, what is a blockchain, what is an ecosystem, just this basic definition in most of the languages would already be a big help, you know. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but I think that's the starting point. So we have a whole highway in front of us, you know, so we don't need to fight for who is going to be there first, because there is so much work.
Yeah, I fully agree, because I actually also learned a lot, because actually my white paper, I originally put it in, I meant to do one ambassador, and that it switched. So now each language hub will have as many as possible. So I want to organize those hubs so everybody doing content in a certain language can be assembled. But of course, not to create little islands. That's why we are all ambassadors, and we stay in touch. So if something good comes out of the Palestinian group, so to speak, and they have a super proposal that can be interesting, we might make a little animation, translate that, and post it in all languages, in all hubs. And that's the way how you can stay in touch. I can give you an example. The Japanese language community, we know hardly anything about them, yet they are the second biggest, and Emergo comes from Japan. So Cardano is actually founded by them. And so there is a team, because my Japanese ambassador, who is unbelievably amazing, and he's just now become part of DC Sparks, but he's also part of a team that does Expo, and they have also a Catalyst proposal. So if you look in the Miro board, I have put a link to that, and nobody knows it, but there is an enormously big blockchain convention yearly in Japan. And so far, there was never a Cardano booth. So that team, 5 people, worked for months and said, we want to have a booth there. And they put in the work, and they gotten so far that even IOHK will be present. Charles Hoskinson will make an appearance, and several others. So they have an own website. The Japanese ambassador Dao runs a stake pool and everything else. Can you imagine a project like that not known here in all the discords? If you ask anyone, no one knows about that. And for me, I want to change that, because we should be way more in contact. It should be like, wow, Charles Hoskinson is going to talk in Japan. Well, almost everyone here will be surprised if you see suddenly an interview appearing on YouTube. Hey, this was it. But look at every other project with that magnitude. It would be known in the discords. It would be known throughout it, and that shows you that there's much to do. And the other point that I want to make is that, well, the European languages is one thing, but in other languages like Luganda, that's in Uganda, it took 10 hours to translate the what is blockchain script. And that's a 4-minute script that with machine translation, I could edit and 30 minutes in Dutch. But in Arabic, machine translation doesn't help. It takes 3 hours. In Filipino also. But can you imagine a word like welcome doesn't exist in Filipino? That is not a concept. And for instance, ecosystem or things like that, just plain and simple community that doesn't exist in Luganda. The only word exists is village, but that's not really applicable to any of the concept. So the Ugandan ambassador took 10 hours. He actually needs to make a lexicon, the pure basics of the concepts in those languages need to be installed. But he did a search. There was zero information about blockchain. So now perhaps someone else that entered. So we already have a few people. So Peter, who was in here that didn't speak? Let's just say, take the floor. I think Peter hasn't spoken.
My name is Peter. I don't have a proposal or anything, but it's nice to meet all of you. I've been following Cardano for the last year, and I'm trying to join into the community and start helping people with their proposals. And I have some ideas, but I'm a few months out, and I'm just starting to come to these town halls and hang out. It's good to meet all of you.
Yeah, but that's actually the best way to look around, to see projects. And even if you don't have a project yourself, you can find something that that attracts you and join up, because
Exactly.
everybody here is really looking for good collaborations and your own skills, your interests. Because why did you choose this room?
I am working with a friend and have a podcast kind of around language and culture, and this is yeah, as far as my knowledge set across the idea of all the breakout rooms, this matched best, so I decided to come here.
You're very welcome, that's for sure.
All right.
And where are you from? Is that
Tennessee in the
Oh yeah,
United
because
States.
yeah, well,
Yep.
I saw the United States, but the other
Yep.
part of the flag was
Yep.
yeah. Okay,
Tennessee.
so next one on the list. I'm not sure who wants to speak next. Just Alain or Ken, for instance.
I was just gonna add real quick, Rick, if Peter, if you can drop the link to the podcast, I would love to put that in my playlist.
Yes, that's
You're
for
muted, by
sure.
the way, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Because if you have a podcast and it's about language, yeah, it can be also, if you have a YouTube channel, I can post it also on our channels. So that's also a very
That's
good
cool.
idea.
That's cool. Yeah, it's on Spotify right now. I'll put the link in there. Haven't had many people listen to it. It's just been something I started the last 2 months pretty much. And I have a couple other ones, but those aren't even public yet. There's a little more ideas being added into that. Those are being worked out. Gonna have a network and everything for that stuff. Anyway, thank you. I'll put it in.
But because if you want to be a content creator, just like I said, Safety in Numbers Collective and the ambassadors would welcome you, because we want to assemble everything, and if there's good content, it can be translated so not only English speakers can follow it. And so, yeah, we were then going to go further now, perhaps with the introductions. Alain, or can you present yourself?
I'm okay. I will maybe just drop the proposal in the chat if you guys want to have a look and comment. It's always good, and yeah, basically, if you guys have a question or idea, or just what is the main need for an ecosystem in matter of language, it might also help to know where to start. I mean, if you just go on the website of IOHK, you see that, if I'm not saying any mistake now, is the website IOHK. Okay, here we have different, okay, we have 2 languages, English and Japanese. So here also we could imagine having more content translated, and because now we are having Townhall live translated, but I don't think that there is even one person that is listening to me translating this whole thing. I'm just doing it because if there is one guy, maybe this one guy would say, oh, that's cool, and but I mean, the main website, this all needs to be multilingual. There is no question about that. And if you have a platform and you can split the task, it can go really fast, and it can attract really fast. It can be ranked on Google way faster, and it can really have a big effect.
I fully agree, because I had to do the interview, the onboarding for Fund 5, and I gave that as an example. I said, like, I hear IOHK also saying we're the blockchain of the world, but look at the general website. It's English, and that's it. It's like, yeah, okay, you have budget for everything, for hackathons and everything, but if you want to be blockchain of the world, it needs to be like that. So I'm also going to post my links. So I have 4 proposals now with the ambassador, but I would suggest also that we all stick together and also help comment and help with kudos on each other's proposals, because as I said, there needs to still be forming awareness of the necessity, because people really still have no clue how big the task is, in fact, and how important to create new blockchain lexicons in each language. If we are not going to do it, who will? Because most people are just like the sluts in Ethereum, wanting to go for commercial languages, but the developing countries in Africa and all that, if we don't do it, no one will. And so now I think, Darlington, you can present. You already put in the link for Live Donation, so I would suggest you give a bit of explanation on top of the Live Donation.
Yeah, I put in a couple of links, Light Donation, and then the link to that proposal. We provide educational content for people that are not in the Cardano trenches. So like not developers, not tools makers. I think the kind of content we write is probably not targeted to anybody even on this call. These are targeted to super new people that don't even know, that don't even have a technical background. Someone that might struggle with even starting a Zoom. So that's the level of content education we provide, and we're just trying to really educate on the blockchain and all the different aspects of it, using those kind of simple languages. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. People's been reading the articles, and blockchain's been making sense to them. And so what we want to do now is to get all of that good information in other languages. And we started out with Swahili and Spanish, and we have 2 proposals for that. And with that, we're not just trying to like provide the content in Swahili and Spanish. We also want to have people on the team that if somebody writes in Spanish, we can respond to them. And if somebody writes in Swahili, we can respond to them. So building that network. And the big objective there is to then eventually have our Swahili people, our Spanish people who are living in Spanish native regions and Swahili native regions can then start creating content of their own that's specific for that region. And eventually, amongst themselves, they can kind of come up with their own new words to describe these novel ideas about staking and blockchains and stuff like that. And so the stuff that Rick is doing is super interesting. We've been talking about how we can kind of collaborate our efforts there, especially on the tool side to make that content creation, moderation, quality check easier. Because I don't speak Swahili, I wouldn't be able to to validate that the thing the person writes, or even just like help. And like when I write my content on the site right now, I give it to somebody, and they usually comes back with all the ways it doesn't make sense. And I do a round or 2 of that before I post it on the site. So just having a rich community that can do that. In the Swahili native areas is kind of what we're striving towards. And that proposal is supposed to help with that. There are 2 guys. One of them is a journalist that I'm hoping to kind of have on payroll, almost part-time to start and almost full-time. I think I'm hoping by the time the money runs out of the fund that we're gonna get, we should cover them for 6 months. The pool has enough publicity, and then I'm gonna use the pool funds to continue paying them. That's what we do.
Yes, it's like very much the similar way of thinking as us, because as you said, on YouTube, I create then YouTube channels when I have a narrated version, and then I make a manager. So one of the first ones that are trustworthy can become the manager, because as you said, I don't speak all of those language, I don't speak Luganda, so somebody needs to check that scammers are not trying to misuse your platform or put some indecent proposals or some genocide call outs or anything like that. If you don't speak the language, you cannot block that. So it's very important that you find people who can monitor that as well. And therefore the hubs, it's the same as what we do on YouTube. So very similar. And so now I think I'm gonna go. Have you heard from Mike yet?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I'm the game.
oh, yeah. You
what's with Steve and Scott and Ken?
Ken is also there. Steve, Scott, and Ken. Who wants to be first?
I'll go. I'm just on here because I think I spoke with you on Discord. My wife's from Czech Republic, and she can speak some Russian and Polish. Didn't seem like she was too interested in it, unfortunately. So I'm basically just in here to just to see what's going on and see how you've progressed. You know, I might be able to push her a little bit, maybe help out, but I don't know. I guess trying to find information on it, it doesn't matter exactly whose project it is because everybody's got the same goal in mind, and that's to translate so people who aren't familiar with blockchain in general can get an idea of what it is. But how, like, I guess the process and actually like point of contact, the process, like is for people that are doing videos, are they given a script? Is there something that they got to do, or does it, you know, is the final video editor, are they the one that do they cut the voiceover and put it in type thing? And I mean, I'd love to help in some way, but it's just, I guess, finding information that's actually needed so I can make a educated guess as far as which way to go, and maybe even how to approach my wife about it and get her interested in it, because she knows absolutely nothing about blockchain.
Yeah, well, that's actually also one of the purposes, because a lot of the candidates were crypto newbies. And a lot of them said, I want to learn something myself about cryptos and blockchain technology. So actually the goal is, by educating others, by translating, you educate yourself and you become a blockchain translation expert. That's why one of the proposals that I have is blockchaintranslation.io. I want to give them a platform where people can then offer those services, that skill in their language on that platform commercially or for other projects. So you can then have a portfolio made by the content put on the Ambassador side. So you, just like a model, takes pictures and then goes and says, see, this is how I look. Well, as a blockchain translator, you can see, hey, I translated 7 videos. Those are the animations. Look at them, listen, check if what my work is good. So you can create actually your own portfolio by helping the ambassadors. And I would then, yeah, and then you can say, okay, I offer $25 per page in Russian that you can offer. Or, and also volunteers can say like, okay, I have 3 hours to spare. I speak German. Is there a project I want to participate just for helping Cardano to be known? And so what can we do or need? Well, we need almost, yeah, like you said, video editors are needed, designers, people who can do all those things, narrators, because of course you have people who translate, and then I put the translations on, because the system works then that you first translate it, you have subtitles, but then you narrate it and then you put it on top. Some ambassadors can do it themselves, the Japanese ambassador. If not, somebody else needs to do it. At this point in time, I then do it. But of course, there is so much to do that there is certainly help possible for anybody who wants to find something useful. So. And with your wife, yeah, well, you can already say that we are funded for the African ambassadors. And I asked this time, I didn't make the mistake for only going for African languages. In Fund 6, it's also in the others, it's like multi-language, how to education and African. So that's, but of course, I can only promise payment through the Catalyst funding. But also one of the things we're here, and which channel is here, is to find ways to support and become independent of Catalyst funding, find ways to monetize that. And that's actually what the whole Safety in Numbers Collective is. And I have then NFTs, a project that normally should come out, but NFTs with a purpose linked to the ambassadors. And then there are, of course, other things like stake pools that will be then formed. But in order to do that, of course, you need to have 2 million ADA on the stake pool. But then when it generates, you can also start giving contributions, a bit the same system as what Darlington does. Like I said, him and I work very similar in a way. But it's good to have people here and also post out their own ideas if you want to do something. So now the next person was then Ken, I presume, because he's one of the first in, and I made him wait so long. So my apologies, Ken. Up to you now.
That's fine. Um, I've got one of my proposals that I have out is on distributed collaboration. And so some of that has to do with culture. Like I've got a bit of a background in cultural anthropology and linguistics. I know a little bit about a lot of different languages. I'm currently living in Malawi in Southeast Africa and trying to learn the main native language here. So mostly just listening, I understand a little bit, but yeah, I guess the main language here is called Chichewa, and I guess it's related to Swahili from what I've been told. So yeah.
That's very interesting. I
So
would want to talk
I don't,
to you more about those things because it's amazing because people don't even understand. Alone in a country like Uganda, for instance, there are 44 languages. Ethiopia 88. So it's unbelievable the richness that sometimes is there. And some languages like Urdu, for instance, that's been spoken by 260 million people in the world. I had no idea actually, so it's unreal. But I sure want to have contact with you and see because I'm searching for African ambassadors, and I'm sure you might be able to find me some people that might be willing to contribute or translate.
yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure how many people other than the friends I've got that I've been spending time with here in Malawi have Cardano on the radar. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's indeed not so easy to find people sometimes, but well, you just need one to start. So who knows? So then the next one is Steve, I believe, because we haven't heard from Steve.
Yeah. Hello. You guys hear me, right?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm from Saudi Arabia. I've been in the United States for almost 9 years. I study psychology, so you guys know my English is a little bit hesitation. So I've been watching Cardano for a long time, and, especially when Charles just liked the whiteboard that time in YouTube. And believe me or not, I understand the vision that he got from the mistaking from the other blockchain coming from. So yeah, the adaptation for the language I see from you guys, it's really hard, especially when you guys speaking English, and most of the Arab nation, they a little bit, English is not their maybe it's gonna be their second language, but it's not gonna be the point that they people understand it. So I believe it's like if I get if I want to make a recommendation that you guys have adopted the basic Arabic to the any blockchain to make people understand what's going on in Cardano network, especially in the Muslim world is like any Muslim, they can speak in Arabic and read in Arabic. So you have the whole nation of Islam that can adopt the language that you guys missing in the network. So that's maybe my opinion, but I do understand the future of the Cardano, and I understand how they try to make the basic fundamental economy for the whole nation, the whole world. So that's what's one of the things I try to make sure is like there is another blockchain they can do, but I believe is the only one has their own radar is the Cardano, and I believe they will solve it.
Yes, I think that's what we're all here for. We hope that indeed Cardano becomes the blockchain of the world. And I agree, if there's one blockchain that has that desire and perhaps also the capability, then it is Cardano. Yeah. So I think we have everybody that kind of introduced themselves. So I'm not sure if there's a certain topic that we still need to discuss today, because normally, isn't it supposed to last an hour? It's also my first time I host a room, so my apologies if I'm not actually sure if we already are supposed to quit or if we can continue and somebody comes to say that we have to stop. So in any case, I find it very, very interesting, and I hope that we come back and that we grow the room and that we find more and more people that come here, and that together we can see and work and collaborate together. Because as Dor again stipulated in the town halls, is that when projects work together and join and merge, that it becomes stronger, and that the proposals even get bigger chances of being funded. So it's good marketing to announce during a fund that you and another project collaborate in some sort of way. So everybody that's here that has a project, I would really suggest to find and seek out other projects, because the Safety in Number Collective, the white paper, you can find it on our site. Actually, everybody is mistaken. They think I want to build it all myself, but Safety in Numbers as a collective is just individual entities, groups and teams and projects working together, but of course harmonized and form each and help actually and become complementary with each other. And that way we can create an entity that can actually compete with all those big OpenFi, OpenRazors, DeFi and other big companies who will start to really flood Cardano now that smart contracts will be launched. So that's my experience also as a in business to business sales for 30 years. You can compete with those big money companies, but you really need to then have a good working entity that can provide flexibility and all other strategic and cross sales and other advantages. Because in the end, everybody needs to become try to become self-sustaining if you don't want to rely on funding from capitalists. Because right now I can give you the problem that I have in Fund 5. I have to explain to everyone, an African ambassador, I can give you money and an amount, but for 3 months, because after that, it will depend if Fund 6 we get a yes or no. So it's not easy to then have people engaged, or otherwise you risk somebody translating a bit and then stopping if it's no, and that you have absolutely no continuation.
And I would say something to that, because that was actually a major point I've been thinking about, because I want to make learning not only fun but rewarding. So you notice, okay, I'm learning something, so and I'm actually getting something right now, and not just in some years when I finished my education. So I'm getting something right now. So on my game platform, we have an in-game currency, of course, and that is of course a native token. And I plan to take all the revenue streams that we get from customizables and collectibles and companies buying some representative space and redirect that into a treasury and to have a fixed exchange rate, or to provide for some exchange rate of our native token to Ada. So just one idea how you could make yourself self-sufficient and you're not reliant on.
Read the white paper. It's exactly what I'm doing. I call them number coins. That's also one of the ideas.
Yeah, you just need to have utility. That's what you need.
Yeah, and actually one of the things or the concepts I want to do on NFT is I'm busy with another part, but the technology then can be used for the same thing, and it's called fundalescent. What I want to do is then say, hey, you create an NFT, and you say, for instance, the what is blockchain animation took roughly 30 hours to make, the whiteboard animation, the script writing, and then of course the translating and the narrating there took also 20 odd hours. So then you have 10 animations, 10 different languages. You make 10 NFTs of that. In total, the work was for 40 hours. You say, for instance, $25 per hour, which is commercially very cheap, because if you look at commercial translation for European languages, it's roughly $30 per page per hour. For non-European, it's 45. So you give economically a good value, and you say 25 times 40. So that means that it's $1,000, but we have then 10 animations made. So each NFT is worth $100. And then you say on that platform, we sell those NFTs, and you can then say, okay, when it's sold, the project is funded, the 10 NFTs are sold, then the video gets made, and then the originators each get their NFT. And so you can say, I want to invest in what is blockchain for Luganda, or what is blockchain for Spain. And then, of course, you can afterwards have that NFT. And the end goal, thanks to smart contracts, would be to then, for instance, say, but the person that actually made bought that NFT is then also owner. It gets not only published, but on the YouTube channels, we will have stake pools, we will have merchandising, we will have revenue streams, and they will be redistributed over the ambassadors or the content that's been created. And then, of course, you can also see the person that bought that NFT gets also, for instance, like 10% of the revenue through that NFT, where it's right on, goes to the owner of the NFT. So you have somebody then that can buy it as an investment as well. So you have a secondary market of the NFTs. If the platform, the subscribers rates grow, those NFTs might rise in value, just like any other, the secondary market. But on top of that, of course, it becomes a financial product. You just can invest and say like, okay, what is blockchain is going to be necessary, and going to be necessary each year more and more. And of course, the advantage of the content is once it's there, it generates revenue. And each year, the revenue of the YouTube channel becomes bigger. And each year, the revenue share of each of those NFTs that were funded by Fundalescent would also get more and more of a financial compensation. So that is my end goal there.
Neat. Hey, Mike, would you drop some links to your game and stuff?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
because
think I already did. I want to get you one more. Wait, no.
Okay.
That's so
Okay,
fast.
it's Linkfest
Yeah,
here in the
Bam, there we go.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and And actually, I would have another point if no one else has something to say right now. Anyone? Because I've been thinking there are 7,000 languages at least, and I don't see blockchain content being translated in 1,000 languages. So and I've been trying to look around, or really trying to figure out what are the most important languages or the most necessary languages for the ecosystem. And perhaps yeah, you all have some insight for that, because I thought like Amharic and Oromo would be very nice for Ethiopia, and Swahili for Tanzania and other countries, and but yeah, are there any other than the typical English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin, perhaps?
There are certainly, of course, many languages that are less known. Like I said, Urdu, that's been spoken by 260 million people, part of them in Pakistan, but all the stands actually speak Urdu. So it's actually a language which I was astounded. I talked to somebody from there, and then I searched that on Wikipedia, and it's one of the top 20 languages in the world, and almost no one knows about it. And as you said, well, I'm now also trying to figure out the best languages to focus on. In Ethiopia, it's Omoro and Amharic. And then you have, of course, Hausa. Nigeria also has important language groups like Hausa, Igbo, all spoken by 40 million people. And of course, Swahili is not only Tanzania, but is spoken over 5 countries with 150 million people. And yeah, Arabic, of course, pretty obvious, 260 million people worldwide. So Saudi Arabia in Africa. So it's really an important language, especially for people in Africa as well. And French, if you're talking about second languages, if the northern part, if they don't speak Arabic or another European language, they most likely speak better French than English in the northern part of Africa. And yeah, other languages that might be interesting could be like Filipino, a country of more than 100 million people, very Americanized, very well adapted with the culture of the Western world and of the new technologies. And very skilled people there that are open to it. And so Filipino is for instance, also a language that is very interesting. And Portuguese, for instance, is not only a world language, but even in Africa, there are several nations in which Portuguese is an official language as well. So with Portuguese, you also reach parts of Africa.
Can I say something real quick? I just want to back to all the languages, because yeah, I think Mike's right. Obviously, there's not going to be 7,000 different trans languages of languages floating around for people to look up on YouTube. I think it's more. I think it's more of like finding the languages, in my opinion, from listening to y'all, is finding the more the underdeveloped nations, and because that's what this whole Cardano thing is about. It's not about whether the Russians can understand it or the French can understand it or the Americans can understand it. It's about whether those underdeveloped nations that are unbanked, those people, that populace, whether or not they can understand it, because they're the ones that are going to benefit from it more in their life and their social structure and their economy than the modernized countries. But then the other thing too is, like you were saying, is like there are certain countries in Africa where they speak French, and they also do speak their native tongue there. And a lot of them, it might be a second language, or they might have family members that speak French, and or to where they can translate. So you're not translating every language, because you might have an overlap of languages in a particular area. So I don't know how that plays into everything. But I don't think focusing on the modernized, industrialized countries is probably the right way to go in the vision of Cardano itself, at least my opinion.
Yeah, I fully agree. But of course, you need to take into account, like for me, Cardano, and just like safety in numbers, what is the core why of why I do it? It's inclusion. It's lifting language barriers so everybody can be included. So for me, actually, I say like any language should be included, because you sometimes say a little language. Well, a little language can mean 5, 10, 20 million people speaking it. And to then say like you're commercially not interesting, so we won't give you the chance and you just figure it out yourself. For me, that's completely against the Cardano mission, because that's why my concept of the ambassadors is create the animation and then harmonize it so a translation can be added easily. So the cost of an extra translation is minimal, and you just need to find somebody engaged from that community. And then I want to give them an option, because in the end, I feel like everybody should have a chance. And it's not because somebody speaks, I'm from a small country. It's not because there are only 11 million people and Dutch is only spoken by 16 million people. I find that for me, 5 million people is the Flemish speaking part of Belgium. And so I hear others, and they come from the US, 350 million people in total, all that. But I feel like a small community in Africa can be 10 or 20 million native speakers. I think they deserve as well to get at least the same chances of all the rest. And of course, for the funding and prioritize, sure, I want to prioritize and I want to sure find people Amharic, Omoro, Igbo, all those languages. But it's also availability. A lot of people now in the developing countries, especially, are hurt very badly with COVID and financial mayhem through the lockdowns. So they're in survival mode, and they don't really have that much time to spare if you need to feed a family of 12 and do 2 or 3 jobs. So that's an issue.
Yeah, and I think our kind of vision and approach to your comment, Mike, is I don't think we need to be we don't need to like take on all the languages as a burden of the English speaking communities. We don't need to be, I don't think it's feasible to expect that all the things we create in English will get translated. I think just all you need is a small cohort um, of people in these different communities that you can then empower to go start, almost like catalyzes their own revolution of blockchain and memes and things like that. I mean, one of the reasons why blockchain is has the strength and power that it does in the US and in Europe and stuff is because you know, the technology, first of all, it wasn't gifted to us. It didn't come from benevolent Google or Apple. It didn't come from the United States Department of Defense, right? This came from grassroots. And so when you look at a lot of the words in English, for some of the blockchain concepts, they're not very literal, the kind of metaphorical, and so there's these different emotions that's attached to them. So if you can train 2 people, 5 people that can and kind of set them loose in wherever they live, they can come up with their own words. Because each time they re-explain blockchain and each time they tell somebody about it, they're gonna come up with their own words and they can create their own emotional and metaphorical word that's not gonna translate to English. It's gonna be unique to Yoruba, it's going to be unique to Swahili, and that has a much more powerful effect, and it has the potential to kind of have the same emotions that Americans and Europeans have of a blockchain, to have that same emotions in other parts of the world if they came up with the words themselves. So I think just like training a small set of people and enabling them to go teach it and however they see fit is kind of, you can do that in 7,000 languages. It's much harder to do that in 7,000 languages if you're trying to port everything from English to 7,000 languages, you know? So that's kind of the path we're trying to add to the group of projects that's going in that direction of localized development.
Yeah, that's very true in the end, and that's what I said. So with the Ugandan ambassador, he had 10 hours of translation to do for the what is blockchain animation, and the one I did in 30 minutes with machine translation in Dutch. But he's head of a language school, and Luganda, which is spoken there, they are apparently tribal elders who are extremely strict about the language. So he was actually nervous, and he actually had some meetings with them, and was then seeing like, okay, I want to use that word for that description, because as I said, many people, even I, we don't realize that all those concepts in the European languages most of the time don't exist in the in non-European languages. So indeed, the lexicon that you speak about, the people can really understand it if it's perhaps also worded, and if a word is invented, but in their own language. So just like everybody else in America knows the emotions, what you said about that. So I fully agree with that. It's a task, and of course it will be each and every language community itself that will need to find some people that are willing to help out their own language community. And what we can do is facilitate them, help them, and form the hubs and the sites where they can all come together. And I see that Dor entered into this room. So welcome, Dor. So hi. Thank you for giving our little room a present. So I was glad that I'm not alone here, because it's the first time I host this room, and with all the rooms available, I was thinking, by God, I hope I'm not going to be sitting there alone. So everybody here, a big thank you for having made actually an incredible good first meeting, and I hope we can not only come back here and find others as well, so that everybody can find those collaborations that Dor was talking about within the translation and education sector, because the task is so massive. It's like, yeah, creating Haskell, creating Plutus from Haskell is just roughly the same as creating a whole new lexicon in a language.
Nice.
No,
Are you all proposing? Like, anybody here with a proposal for the? I think there is a dedicated challenge just for translations, right? So, I wonder who's here in a proposing team in the challenge.
Several ones. So I think Mike is in it for sure, and Darlington is also in it. We had Ken. We have, I think, wait, because I'm gonna see. There are a few left. There was somebody else also with a proposal. There are a lot of links in the chat, and there was already talks before this between me and Darlington to see if we can collaborate with both our projects. I still think they're very complementary. So it's actually a good thing, and I'm always pleased to hear find people, other projects, because that's also how my little group grew in Fund 5. I started out April the tent with 3 people and a white paper. And by the end of the fund, there were already more than 25 people that had done contributions. So mostly I found people in town halls, in swarm sessions, but also on idea scale and talking with other people, because 3 other proposals joined my collective. So I give that as advice to anybody with their own proposal. Seek partnerships, find complementary projects.
Great. Yeah, I think clearly, clearly the community voted on the challenge, and they want more translations. There's like a lot of like local community hubs, and this challenge, it's clearly something the community wants and willing to put treasury, like a significant amount of funds towards promoting it. So, I hope you all feel like and of course our team is very happy to integrate, any initiative, whether funded or not, if it's, to improve that. So, everybody's got your back, and everybody wants you guys to take it one step forward. Just, I think just in terms of like people in the room who do want to make an initiative and they didn't get a proposal in time, just know that you have the option, first of all, to team up with one of the existing teams. And I think people would really appreciate you reaching out to them, through a direct message in a Discale, for example. Or, I think another option you can do, it's a bit of a hack, but you can find someone, if there's someone in the challenge that withdrew his proposal that says withdrawn, you can actually message him, and maybe he would make you the give you that empty proposal, and you can take it over. So
if you can still switch, you can completely switch the whole proposal then.
Just make sure to report anybody who asks money for it or something like that, because that's
that would be but it's a good tip. It's like those companies that buy up companies that went bust to have actually debt, so that they can actually deduct it for taxes. Actually, they ask money for that. But I do agree. I can sense that there's more and more of awareness for translation. The only thing I do find is that the budgets attached are pretty limited for the task at hand, because translation, for once, I come from business to business sales, 30 years of business to business sales perspective. And what is it? The challenge to find a big organization, create hubs, 130 hubs, plus have a contract ready with one big organization in 3 months, ready, signed, made. Look, I'm a business-to-business developer. I sell to Janssen Pharmaceutica, Johnson & Johnson. That already took more than a year just to get in and get the first proposal. If you had $30,000 for KPIs within 3 months, a side contact and 130 hubs, just the YouTube channels to create one hub takes me 1 hour. So it would only, for that part, take 130 hours. So that I find like, I stay away from that challenge, because it can only be not working out KPI wise if you get funded like this.
Yeah, just remember, it's a long game. It's like funds are, so far they've been doubled every funding round, and right now, when we're still in this, like, we're still early, 4 million is still early to where we're gonna go in the next year or so. Like every new fund is gonna be bigger than all the others combined. That's basically the logic. So I think now it's a lot of like prototyping and proof of concepts, rather than like and like small scoped projects, rather than like the giant projects will happen, but they will be based on those who build a reputation on smaller proof of concepts.
Yeah, I guess that indeed, I feel like at this point in time, the community is still held back a little bit because economically there is no incentive to limit the number of proposals. Well, that's now talking about my Master of Economics, that would say like any country, any economy, because that's the issue of Belgium. We have a too high savings rate. That's why we're not productive enough. If you have money saved, you need to invest. But what should be the criteria? Is it economically viable or interesting? So if you look at it purely economically, you should say like, okay, no matter how many proposals, we have a quality norm. And if you reach that quality norm, then we can let the community decide yes or no, we're going to fund it. And if they say yes, then we fund it. And there shouldn't be a limit. That's how you should be looking at it purely economically at any, that's pure basis of economy. And so I was wondering, why is that not the case? So it can only be that there's a deliberate system that still thinks like, okay, we just want to hold them back a bit more. And that I then don't understand why that needs to be happening while the commercial products from other blockchains will start flooding the blockchain. So you create the ADA, you hold back your own community and the volunteers in favor of external big projects who might be making life more difficult, because there is going to be competition between the two, the decentralized and the commercial, and also those who come from others. And that I don't understand. And that is always what I then find my way. Why, if you can hear Charles Hoskinson say Catalyst is the heart of why Cardano is being done strategically, I don't get that.
I'm trying to figure out your argumentation. I think you said something about.
Okay, yeah, it's perhaps.
I'm gonna repeat what you said just to see if I understood, because I'm a bit confused. So, like, you're saying like proposals should be filtered before they get into the voters.
Well, that is
would be better outcomes if there would be less, if there would be more like you know, there will be like some standards, and only if people meet the standards then they're in the ballot. I think that's one argument I heard.
Yeah, and that was part one. Yes.
Then the other argument was something about commercial companies are gonna come and overtake the community, and that's bad. So and it's like, so that argument I didn't get it. Like, why is it bad? Like why having like organized groups of people with proven success and teams like come from the outside and bring outcomes and work for us, right? Work for Cardano. Why is that a bad thing? That I'm not sure I understand. And the second one is like, why would they necessarily overtake us? I didn't get the theory of like how they do that.
Well, for me, it's just like saying, why would you not let Google host our databases? Why do we not? We want decentralized. We want not big company, 1%ers that start saying like, we will decide for you. We want to have a DAO in which everybody is equal and everybody is contributing. And for me, it's like you had it, as I'm old enough to have witnessed the rise of internet. At that point in time, those companies like Google, Facebook, they all started out as ideology as well. They turned into those big giant corporations who then started to misuse it. So now you see new blockchain 1%ers, big companies rise. Occam, Occam Razor, for instance, comes with a team, says, hey, we do already so many DEXs, and we are going to give you the platform. They don't engage in the community. They just come and say, just like Google says, we're going to do it all for you. I find that not the true blockchain way. And I think a lot of people feel the same. There's certainly a lot of people in the discords I talk to that share that same feeling. And so I'm more for like a project than like liquid finance. So that one is really funded heavily, which is okay in my book, because then we will have that kind of fight, like who's going to be the winner, liquid finance coming from Catalyst throughout the rest. But well, liquid finance was pretty early and then took a whole lot of budget. So they actually have a good chance now. And they come out both at the same time. Because just like in any commercial situation, the first mover advantage is interesting. So the longer the Catalyst proposals are held back, the bigger the economic barrier they have to overcome. Because at this point in time, big companies, commercial companies, will then already come out with their solutions. So that's what the argument is. My question on why that IOHK is not seeing that as a danger.
I think in the specific case of Catalyst, I think there's also the danger of just doing more, doing something bigger and failing right now, because we don't know where we want to be yet as a community. We're kind of iterating and experimenting. And if you're gonna do that, it's better to fail with less risk than fail with more risk, right? Like we don't want to go the route of Ethereum, where when there is a failure because of the pace at which we're moving, the loss is also magnified. So we don't want Google, but we also don't want Ethereum, and it's hard to say what's in the middle, right? So I think you have to consider the other side of the coin too.
Yes, but well, still it's like for me the big difference is the language there, and that's IOHK, because Plutus and Haskell has got way more security, smart contracts, native tokens, so no smart contracts even needed. So that part of the security is more the task of IOHK than it's the task of the community, I think. So I don't see how.
So in the case of like developing Plutus, right, that took 7 years, right? That was and even that, there was some bit of a misstep there that kind of caused an entire rewrite of what RHK was doing. So even that was not a 6 month or 18-month endeavor. And I think the kind of seed change that at least what I envision with getting language communities to create emotive language for blockchain ideas and concepts that they come up with, that sea change, I don't think is something that's gonna come in a rush, in like a under 18 months time frame. I think it's gonna be a slow development, and I even prefer the slower development to weed out unvetted actors, to see the people who comes out 2 years from now will be able to make an actual difference. Like the Bitcoin paper came out, and it took almost 2 years before you had an actual experiment of Bitcoin, and another year and a half before people actually started running Bitcoin computers, Bitcoin machines, or Bitcoin source codes on their computers, right? So there's that trenches part. So I think while we're in the trenches now, there needs to be a balance between speed and deliberate smaller risks, not so fast. At least that's how the argument too for going too fast.
Well,
I
yeah.
Guys, I need to go, but maybe just from hearing all the arguments, could take a really long time to break them down and examine them because there's like a lot of assumptions made on top of each other. But you know, the truth is you know, the simple matter is the opportunity is here now, and it's going to be determined by what we do with it. Okay, so there is a treasury. It's quite formidable in size. It's growing in an exponential rate. The community is growing in exponential rate. The projects are going in exponential rates. We became in a very short time the largest and most engaged, and probably we're going to be the most impactful decentralized innovation fund in the world in a very short time. And I mean, one option is to look out and be afraid of all the things that might happen and look at IOHK and what they do and criticize them, or someone else is doing. And the other option is, you know, just do your best and you know, it's like be here now, you know, with the great amount of resources. You're all early, you know, you all have a chance to take leadership and make a huge impact on the future of the system. And in the end, you know, like don't be defeatists, you know, like if you're gonna do a good job, if people are making impactful proposals, if good decisions are get made in the system, and if these proposals are executing, this system would simply become the new paradigm, and people would move to work in that paradigm. If it's not very effective, you know, if it deteriorates into defeatist or just belly gazing, or just like talking just about meta stuff, like how do we self-organize, like, and not busy producing outputs and working with, I think, like converting like really the nice amount of funds that are given into actual impact that's measurable and trackable. If we manage to do a good job, it's going to work out. And if we don't, then we'll have a bit of time to reflect on how to improve, and we'll have some chances to iterate and improve. But then at some point, you know, we will come back to the default. So in conclusion, you know, like, I mean, I invite you, you know, rather than to think about all the ways it could go wrong, and all the what Google did and what this did and what this will happen and what might happen, kind of focus on like, okay, we have these resources and these challenges. How do we actually solve them and create impacts? And see what happens. We don't know. You know, it could be that it's not such a great idea. We don't know. The thing is, we're taking the risk, a high risk and very high reward. Somebody's got to do it, so it might as well be us. I hope that helps.
Very true, but well, I look at this from like what I've been trained to do as an economist and also in business. You need to know what your competition does to position your project, because in the end goal needs to be to become self-supportive without catalyst. So and that way I'm used to looking at the market, used to looking what my competition does, not at defeatism, but to learn from it, because I learn more from my own mistakes and also of what the competition does right and what they do wrong. And the one thing you need to always do is analyze the brutal facts also for what you did wrong, because I always see like doing wrong and having something that fails is actually a positive if you learn something about it. But the only way you can do that is by analyzing the brutal facts. I follow Simon Sinek in that regard, and Jim Collins in that regard. I'm not sure if you're aware of his team that did that, and they actually also give that as advice. Always keep on talking about the brutal facts, as they call it. So just analyze and say, okay, this is good, this is wrong. That's not negative, that's just learning. according to him. So if it comes over as sometimes defeatism, that's not the case. It's just like you need to see and analyze not only yourself but your competition as well. So that's my point of view on that. But I'm here, so I believe in the future of Cardano. Otherwise, I wouldn't be spending 3,000 hours since April on all of this. So
Cool. Thanks. All right. Thanks, everybody. I need to go grab some lunch. Take care.
bye.
One point added to the Bluetooth language by Cardano. I've been in the Bluetooth Pioneer program, and it's actually still possible to make bugs. So it's sometimes it sounds like, oh, we have this Bluetooth language and now we are 100% safe and nothing can happen. You still can do heaps of bugs, and it just reduces the amount of what's actually feasible in bugs. So I just second the appropriate level of speed and safety, something. And I'm really amazed by the Catalyst program. So I mean, they're having freaking amazing way of giving feedback and such a welcoming community. And you just talk with someone about something, and you get 5 points where you can level up and get better.
Yeah, very true. But you can easily actually solve that by, for instance, saying like, okay, anybody that's have a project that comes onto the blockchain, you need to have an independent audit done to see if your contract is up to standard. If you then have that as a condition sine qua non, you can avoid that. Then you have only quality.
That's probably more for Polkadot, I think. Polkadot does this because they have 100 projects that can get there, and only 100 projects, and so every project has to be the killer dApp and has to be so amazing and bug free. And I think Cardano has a different way. Yeah, and they don't, because if you would say every project that makes something with the blockchain, you are being hyper exclusive to all the people that are not that don't have the money or the connection to get to the audit stage.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, like any dApp that uses smart contracts in which there's value incorporated, because we say, of course, if you have, for instance, a project in which you refer to some sort of website for documentation and you get the wrong documentation, that's not that bad of an issue. So you could say for those kind of projects, for people doing news or YouTube channels, it's not necessary. But when you create, for instance, a dApp like DeFi dApp through Catalyst, you could say like, okay, for that, the smart contracts need to be audited before you go on. So you don't exclude anyone, you just make sure that when there's Bluetooth smart contracts and value involved, that it really needs to be checked if everything is okay, the best way possible, because even then there will be hacks possible, no doubt, but you need to lower the risk. So
and I have to go now too. So just if anyone likes to contribute with any of the languages that I have somewhere in this whatever in the link, because we build native communities that are native speakers of a language, and to build their language world from the ground up. So if anyone just wants to collaborate on that and can contribute in any language that we are looking for right now, I will be very happy.
2 seconds, because I'm going to and put my mail onto it. I feel like it could be useful that you and I at least have a meeting and see if there are ways how we could collaborate.
Yeah,
I'm going to just I sent it to Peter Wolcott in private, but it was meant now for everyone. So send me mail and then we can schedule a talk and we can see what we can do. So I'm going to stop the recording now, I think, because it's already, whoa, very long that we're busy. It's time flies when it's so cool. So right now